What is your name?
Viola Shorthill.
And how old are you, Viola?
I'll be 88 tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, my birthday.
Happy pre-birthday. It's good of you to come on your birthday eve to see us. Where are you living now?
With my daughter in Fergus.
And your family settled in Ballinafad? Were they pioneers here? Did they buy someone else's farm?
My dad and his brothers came from England, and my grandpa Spear bought them the farm between the 5th and 6th line, our old homestead farm. And they didn't get along. They built a little house so Dad could have the little house and Uncle Jack would have the farmhouse. But they didn't get along too well as far as the farming went. And Uncle Jack left and left Dad with the mortgage and left him with everything. So we moved down. By this time, Mom and Dad had 4 children, and we moved down to the big house. And then Dad's Mom and Dad, by this time, he was a printer, yeah. And they had come over, and he was a printer in Toronto. So when he got a little older, he come to the little house. They came to the little house.
I should clarify, this is your family before you were married.
Oh, yes.
This is the Spears family?
That's right.
Spears?
That's
With
right.
an S?
Yes. No, without an S.
Without an S.
Just Spear.
Okay. And who did you marry and how did you meet that man?
Well, Bob Kerr's family had a lot to do with it.
Oh.
Because I worked at their place for the longest time, from when I was 14 in the summer until I was 15, 16.
I see.
And when he was a baby, I looked after him while his mom had to go to the hospital, and I looked after him.
Wow.
So I knew him from when he was so big. And then it was funny that I was working by the time I met Harry, I was working in Acton. And of course we didn't drive cars then. My brother drove a car and he took Lala and I into work. But I met Harry because he was working at Kerr's. He was farming like with the Kerr's. And he used to drive past our place all the time. But we met at the dance. And that was the start of our...
Where was that? Here in the Fed, or?
We were in Erin at the time, because they used to have good dances in the park. You know, the ones in the park. I don't know whether you'd ever remember, but that's where I met him.
Okay.
Well, I know him. I knew the family, like all our lives practically, but...
In those days, we never married strangers, did we?
No.
We checked them out first.
It was a bad winter. Right. You knew a little bit about them before you married.
Right. So there were quite a lot of Spears came together, and you have relatives. Are there's still some living in this community?
There's some from Streetsville now. See, we lost track of them too, because Dad and Uncle Jack didn't get along. So we lost track of his family completely. And after I married Harry, he says, well, we're going to find out where they are. We're going to get in touch with them. And we're going to do our best to find them. So that's when we went. I knew they were in Streetsville. And so we found them. And Uncle Jack and Aunt Sadie were so glad to see me. And of course, by this time, I think I had Donna and Morley. And they were just so sweet to us. Of course, Uncle Jack, if you let him, he would still get back to Dad's, you know, him and Dad.
Yeah.
But we didn't let him. We didn't let him talk about that.
Right.
So we always had a good time with him.
So it seems that most of your family in the area were, some were living off the farm, but others of you were going into town to find work.
Right, right. And of course we didn't have the facility to get there. And of course when war came along, my older sister was working in Toronto. And she told the boss down there that she had another sister that would like work. And I'd never been to Toronto. And I think I maybe was to the exhibition once or something.
Yes.
But it was such a big place. And so she phoned, she wondered if I wanted to go to Toronto to work. And so I went down on a bus, found my way to Acme Screw and Gear. And this big man came and met me at the gate, and he says, just follow me all through this factory. Oh, I was so just shaking in my boots.
Yes.
And I thought, where is he taking me? Where is he taking me? And he says, this is where you'll be working. And there was Bessie sitting right there.
What a relief, eh?
Oh, I was so glad to see her.
Wow.
So that was quite a journey for me.
Were you packaging, or what were you doing in the...
Inspecting.
Inspecting,
Inspecting the fuses for the anti-aircraft bombers.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you were part of the war effort.
Yeah. It was quite a job, and quite a serious job.
Responsible job.
Right.
Wow. When you were in Acton, were you at the tannery
We
then?
were at Masonette.
What work was that?
Where the tannery, where the hidehouse is now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was in that building.
Part of the Bennett Empire, the Hyde House, I guess. Wow.
And then we were at the glove shop for a little while. That was on Wallace, no, is it on Wallace Street?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, where the post office is now.
Oh, Flower Avenue.
Flower Avenue, yeah.
Flower Avenue.
Yeah, that's right.
You might have seen Cam McHenry there. He worked in the glove shop for a long time, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Of course, then it was funny when we built our new house in Balmafad, we built it right across from Cam McHenry.
Yeah.
It's funny how so many things connect, kind of.
Yeah. Wheels within wheels or something, eh? Wow.
It's a funny thing too, if I can interject.
Yeah.
Grandpa Spear didn't really approve of Dad.
No.
Because, well, you tell that story, Mom.
Because him and Grandma Shorthill never saw eye to eye.
Okay.
And of course, it was through the church, because Mom used to play the organ in the old Baptist church at one time. And of course, when she started to go with Dad, he wasn't a church person. And so, of course, then when Grandma Shorthill came along, and Dad and her didn't see eye to eye at all.
There's a tug of war there.
Yeah. So, of course, when we got going together for a while and then talked of getting married, Dad, he bonded with Harry. Finally, you know, they kind of bonded, but it was kind of always on edge.
Sorry, I should have introduced Donna.
Donna, yeah.
Donna, give us your name.
Okay, I'm Donna Shorthill originally, and Metcalf is my married name. And I'll be 61 in August. So I've been, well, I wasn't totally raised in this community. We moved here to the new house when I was in grade 10, so I was 14. And but I was very involved with a lot of community things, the church and the 4-H and
Teen
Town.
She was the one that started Teen Town. Her and Alan Jameson.
And Bill Smith and Carolyn Fruller now, McKinney.
What was Teen Town exactly?
Well, it was a club for teenagers.
Yeah.
There's so many around here.
Based up in the community hall?
Yeah. And we had their parents all behind us because we were all learning to dance and we needed something to do.
Yeah.
And some place to do,
yeah.
you know, to go.
The new hall wasn't in place yet then, was it?
Well, it was just, my dad was
It
a big,
was the old
big
hall.
mover in that. And it's renovated now, but
Yeah.
it was the old community, well, not the old, but it was the original new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think of it as new, but
Right.
Mhm.
so yeah. So we started Teen Town, and we had a real going concern for, well, from the time I guess I was 15 or 16 until, well, pretty much until I got married.
All the time you were a teenager.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Yeah.
university's in there, but you know.
But
so-
they always had 2 or 3 parents as chaperones, like at dances,
Yeah.
and everybody was had got so involved with them having this teen town, and they'd have a good band. They always had a good band, but then we started getting the ones from Georgetown, and the ones that had been at the bar and drinking, and then they were bringing their own food, you know, one thing and another from here, and they used to come and spoil the
It was a good
parties.
team.
You know.
It was a good.
It
They were
was-
good dances, and everybody wanted to come.
Yes.
And then they had,
It was quite. You know, it was very interesting because as a group of kids, we had to decide. We had to make all the decisions because the parents left it up to us.
and then you had a parent, where everybody presented or did something on the stage.
Oh yeah, Friday nights.
Concert.
Yeah.
We had the kind of the old-fashioned.
And I
Friday nights.
remember my youngest daughter, Penny, she was just 4, and it was just when the Beatles were,
Oh, yes.
and she sang, "I'm just 17." You know what I mean. And Bob and Maggie McHenry sat right in the front row, and they were just in tears listening to her sing.
Yeah.
And
She had no nerves.
and then the next year we tried to get her to do something too, and she wouldn't do it. She couldn't do it.
She got her nerves.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had other children besides Donna, don't you?
Oh yes, I have 5 altogether. I have Morley, of course. He's in the construction now. The Andrews and
Oh.
and his partner just died.
Oh.
Well,
Where is that? Where is he living?
he's living on the 4th line. He just built a
Oh,
new house on
okay.
the 4th line.
All right.
And then Bonnie, I live with Bonnie and Fergus.
Mhm.
And Arlene, her and Kurt live down
Creek.
below, well, at Cree, a little place called Cree.
Creek Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Penny, she lives in Grand Valley.
Okay.
She's married to John Reed, and she has 3 children.
I see. So none of them are on the farm, eh?
Probably Arlene's the closest
Well,
because
she's-
they
yeah.
most recently sold their
They've been
farm.
on farms. They were on a farm in Harris.
It used to be everyone was farmers, and now it's gone out of style.
That's right. They're still, like Arlene even works at landscaping,
Yeah.
and she has her youngest son working with her now. They've all been great to get out as soon as they're of age. Like they've all had jobs, and it's been wonderful to see the young ones come along like that.
So when you were younger, there wasn't a teen town. What were you doing for recreation or community activities in those days? When you were
Well,
a teenager?
I remember an old bachelor that lived on the 5th line, and his name was Jimmy Russell.
Yeah.
And he was a great big man. But he drove a car, and on Saturday nights, if we met him at the corner, he would take us kids into Acton.
Oh.
Now, there was nothing to do in Acton, only walk up one side of the street and down the other. It was just getting into Acton.
Yeah.
And then when he was ready to go, he'd say, meet him at a certain time, and He'd have to be there. And we'd get a ride home, and he'd drop us off at the corner, and we'd walk down the little ways to home. And that was our Saturday night outing.
I see.
Yeah. But I mean, as we got older, then when we start having boyfriends and that, you know, we'd have a lot of them around sometimes. But Harold Brown, I went with Harold Brown for a while. And then that was when I was working in Toronto. But nothing came of that, so.
I skipped a little bit. I wanted to just remember at the beginning you said your family came, you thought, originally from England?
Mm-hmm. Dad came.
But you were speaking about Ireland.
That's Dad's family.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And Grandma's family, Grandma Shorthill's family, were United Empire Loyalists.
I see.
And they settled in the Brighton area.
Near London?
No, near Kingston.
Right,
Yeah. And
coming from the U.S.
yeah, and they Grandma ended up here because she went to teachers college, and she got a school up here. And the one picture
First.
Yeah, one picture I have is Grandma's first school.
And I remember her always saying she made $600 a year.
And then later on she taught at the Blue Mountain.
She was,
Yeah.
she was
She was
around.
Just at the end.
She was at Woodside and Peacock and Blue Mountain.
I see.
But it was all interrupted because as soon as you were married, you couldn't teach.
Yeah.
And so while she was having the children, she didn't teach. And I'm not sure of the exact dates when she was back and forth from teaching, but she retired in '62.
Yes. That's when they closed the Blue Mountain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a picture of the people who attended the
Yeah.
graduation. I don't think I knew about
See,
it.
my mom went to that school.
Oh, yeah?
Because my mom was in Allen.
Oh.
Their
okay.
home was just right across the...
Yeah, from the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was in that school from, I guess, 38 to 40 something, around 1940.
Mm-hmm.
12 of us, I think, just enough to keep it open.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we have the English and we have the Irish, and you were speaking about Ballinafad and so on, the connection in Ireland.
Yes.
Could you expand on that a bit?
Well, I don't know that much about it, but I know that the original settlers and the original Shorthills came from that area. And I'm hoping to find out a little more before I actually go, so I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
I've had friends who've done the same kind of thing, and they've gone and sort of found their roots. And
Yes, I did that in Scotland with the Mackay connection and the Kirkwood connection too. In that little book on the history of the hamlet of Ballinafad, they speak about somebody who brought the name. They mention the name of someone who christened this Ballinafad in honor of that one. You might pick it up there if you don't have
okay,
it.
okay. The story goes, now, you know, it's just a story, but that it was the shipboard, the two brothers who originally came, and two sisters. The brothers were Catholic, the sisters were Protestant. They couldn't get married in Ireland, so they were married on shipboard. And they both got their land grants for this area. Now, it's like Mom has a story too that her grandpa, who was the printer, was hired and went to New York for several years because he worked on translating the documents from King Tut's tomb. No, it's in this family book.
Okay.
And we don't know if it's actual fact. Our Auntie Bessie, who's 91, says she went and visited, and Grandpa worked there, and it's kind of family lore. So we're thinking he must have been a pretty good printer to be hired to do something like that.
Yeah, it's very special.
But there are loose ends. Like we don't know. We couldn't say for sure, but it is a family story, and it's enough of a family story that Lee, who is a cousin of mine who's worked on this, she's Uncle Jack's granddaughter.
This is the one who we met from the streets.
Yeah. She has the story, and we have the story, so, you know.
So it matches up.
It matches up, yeah.
But again, I want to tell you, at one time, my mom's brother, Uncle Will, married my dad's sister, Winnie. Now, these folks, my cousins from Streetsville, they didn't know them at all. But I knew that, and Uncle Will went to war, and when he died, and they always told me that it was because she fretted so when he had to go to war.
I see.
But then somebody said it was childbirth, like she died in childbirth. So I don't really know which is right.
So there was quite a collection of, there were people from England, there were people from Ireland, there were lots of people from Scotland. Was that, they were talked about much? Did people argue or say we're better than you guys? Was that a community factor?
Only Grandma Shorthill and my dad.
Oh, just those two, eh?
Well, Grandpa was one of those, he had quite a Napoleon complex. He was very tiny. He could have been a jockey. Like he was about 5'3", 5'4", and he had to be the biggest boaster and, you know, and storyteller.
To compensate him.
And he'd sit, I can remember, with his cigarette ash growing longer and longer, and he rolled his own, and his fingers yellow, and he'd sit in his chair, actually. You still have that captain's chair, don't you? He'd sit in his chair, and he'd tell stories, and Grandma would have to, he'd say, "Ma, do you remember that fellow's name?" And Grandma would chime in the name, and he'd go on with the stories. But Lee, my cousin, has found out things, too, that he was the Bernardo boy. He was a Bernardo boy.
Yeah.
But it was never spoken of much, because it was thought to be
shameful thing.
Yeah, because families would have had to give their kids up because they couldn't make ends meet to the Bernardos. And then, but she has found the shipboard passage and he always told stories that he came when he was like 12 or something.
Yeah, him and two others, and they went out west.
Yeah.
And those stories.
They worked their way across the west, and he always was such a staunch NDPer, CCFer, NDPer. And so when I started political science at university, we had some discussions. But he was a feisty, argumentative. I can see why he wouldn't get along.
Okay. Let's talk about the community life a bit more. A couple of your pictures there showed some of the Shorthills as violin makers and violin players. Was there a lot of music in this community? Was there
yes. Lillian played the piano.
Who did?
Lillian.
Oh, yes.
Mary's sister.
Yeah.
She even played in church.
Yes,
yeah,
I remember that.
For quite a while.
Mm.
And of course, her and Grandpa, old Grandpa with the violin and her with the piano. There was always music. If there was any get-togethers, there was always music.
Somebody's farmhouse.
Yeah, mostly.
Roll up the rug and make a party.
Of course, once we had more than 3 children. Well, even when the children were young, you know, Grandma, if we went to visit them, they all had to sit on the couch and they couldn't move, you know. They had to sit there and be still while Grandma Shorthill. And they wouldn't dare ask for anything. She maybe have a little treat for them if they were good, you know. But
one funny story is I don't like raisins. Grandma put raisins in everything.
I see.
And so I would think they'd be chocolate chips, and there were always raisins. And even as a little child, I can remember, I'd think, oh, great, a cookie. and it'd have raisins in it. It would be Grandma's raisin cookie.
So music played quite a part in the community. We just talked with Bobby Kerr, and his family has a musical history.
That's right.
What about the church? What kind of role did the church play in the community? Was it a useful place? And you said there was some dispute over that.
Yes, that's right. Well, although once I had the children, see, they were all present, mostly in Acton, because we lived in Acton, see. Okay. And my husband had the plumbing and heating and sheet metal business in Acton. From, I don't know for how long we were there. But then we moved, when we built the house here in Balnafad, on his mom and dad's farm. We talked of building a house, well, it had to be here somewhere. So it was on their farm. And so then, of course, we started coming here. That was in 62, because we moved in 62. And I still come here to church. Even though I live in Fergus, I still come down here to church. Now, in the winter, I can't get every Sunday. I just have to come when I can. And I won't have my car next year, because when the lease is up, I'm giving it in.
Oh, dear. Well,
but Donna's so good. She comes from Acton and gets me when I want to come. So.
Maybe discretion is the better part of valor, to give up a car, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's right.
So. It's wicked weather out. Put it this way.
Yeah.
And you'll be contributing to the planet too. You'll cut down your emissions.
Or else make more of it. Don't have them come again.
But an interesting thing about the move to Balnafad is Dad and Uncle Dick started a very intense farming business. So when you're talking, Bob, about farmers, and because Uncle Dick inherited the upper farm from Grandma and Grandpa, and they moved to where Uncle Matt was the home farm. And so Grandpa needed help, Uncle Dick needed help. And Uncle Dick actually worked with Dad as a welder too, in the sheet metal business, sheet metal business. So then they would in their spare time farm, but for Dad it was like all night and all day, pretty much, farming.
As long as I could see the lights of the tractor going, I knew he was okay.
And he'd be out all hours doing the work. And he and Uncle Dick invented many things that I'm sure they could have patented, because they were both very. My sister
even started to raise pigs.
Yeah, they had quite a
pig ranch.
A hog operation, because they would start them in Grandpa's barn, and then the wieners and chunks would go up to Uncle Dick's barn, and they'd transform the whole. And then the price, like Bob was saying, the price fell. And I mean, they did it for a few years anyway.
Oh, a few years.
Yeah, around 1962 to probably 66 or 8 or.
They weren't afraid of trying something new anyway.
No, they were very inventive, and I think that's come down through. Like Morley's like that too, and Penny certainly is. Your youngest sister, she can. And Bonnie, we all work together now and make jewelry, and Bonnie will need something, and Penny will invent it, or together they'll invent it.
Well, it shows that it was always been hard to make a living off the farm. You have to have a few wrinkles or something extra or some other off-farm job to make ends meet. I don't know.
Well, then when my husband heard the store was for sale. That Balnafad store was for sale. And on his dad and mom's farm, he did, he had to have that store. And I thought, we're not having the store and the farm and the sheet metal business. And the pigs, something's got to go.
Okay.
So
what went?
The pigs went.
Pigs went.
First. And he didn't have much time on the farm either. And he tried to sell the sheet metal business, but it didn't sell. So then we just had the store from December of 70, and then he died in December.
Oh,
Yeah, December the 12th that year.
that's too bad. You kept it on for quite a while? How many years?
For 14 years.
14 years, huh?
Yeah, my son Molly came home and helped me in the store.
Oh, yeah. Our family had that store too in the 30s, in the Depression.
Oh, that must have been.
Nobody had much money. You bought something, it went down in a little book.
Right.
Well, see, Morty kept, I think maybe Eddie and I, Smith had started it, but Morty kept a tray with those bills on it. And so if people were putting things, even the
Even the
70s,
Hitchcocks and some of the people, that they told me. But Molly would say, well, as long as you pay me when you get your paycheck, you come in and pay me. So as long as they'd come in every week and pay him.
And Morty was only 19.
Yeah.
Really?
And actually, this is an interesting point. He was made youngest postmaster ever in Canada
I see.
at 19.
That's quite unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had passed all the tests and everything.
Well,
And he had quit school at grade 10.
huh.
And because all the fellas, swimmers boys and all that, quit school because they wanted to work in a factory and make money so they could have hot cars. And there was no keeping him in school. He didn't care, but he's a very, very smart person. And when they sold the store and he had the construction business, one of the first jobs he had to price was the center of the downtown of Milton. They asked for prices, and he thought, well, I could get that. And at the time, my husband and I lived across the side road, and he thought because I taught high school, I knew math. And he came to me and he said, if I stayed at school, I'd probably know how to do this. But he couldn't figure out cubic yards, and he had all these plans, his whole plans for the center of downtown Milton. And we had to try to figure out cubic yards and gravel and all this. And my husband and me and Morley, we sat with stats and plans, and he put a price in and he got the job. So we don't know if we don't even think we were
Whatever you did,
close, but
you did it right.
it sort of launched him, and it was a very neat
Now, we
experience.
better let you ask her.
Well, among us speaking about the store and the post office, they've been here for a long time. They're always pretty important to this community, I think.
And we loved that store. And then he built the tax shop on, I don't know whether you remember
I knew about it.
He built the nice building on the sideline. And he did most of the work. He had a few of his friends help him with get the main part built, but he did, even the wiring, he did. He got so good at all those things.
Were there enough horses in the community to make that a sale?
Oh, it seemed like everybody had a horse.
Okay, so there was a good business?
There was a good business. Oh, and they'd come from all over.
And then there was a general store as well?
Oh, yes, we had everything.
And the post office?
Nuts and bolts and work clothes and boots. And
I remember I was 3 when we bought that store, when we rented it. It was a good place to go and get candies, go down and read.
Now, I was trying to think who had the store before Eddie and Ida did, before the Smiths.
Well, there's a list in that hamlet. Have you got your hamlet there?
Oh, it doesn't really matter.
There's a list of people. Miriam's got it from us.
Miriam's, I remember Miriam's.
We got it from Farnell. There's some others in there in the history.
Well, Jim, do you ever remember playing ball across the corner? Because that was a big deal for us. In the cemetery, we'd play ball every night, every day like this in the summer. There'd just be a e-hockey and everybody come running with all their stuff and we'd play ball.
Seems like we didn't play there. It was, I don't know, too rough or too sacred or what it was about the cemetery, but we...
Well, somebody put up a backstop.
Okay.
So the kids
it was natural place.
Wouldn't go running out on the highway.
We used to go to the 8th line corner to Frank Smith's farm there, across from the Hiltzes, or down to Silver Creek, or
Well, I guess it was just a...
sometimes if it was just 3 or 4, we would play up in the rear yard there in front of the barn.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where we used to play hide and seek too, behind around that yard and in that barn, behind that barn.
We had
Oh,
some,
that was
I
a
have an
great big
old
barn.
movie of a ball game there, and there's like,
Mhm.
I've got it on videotape now, and I transferred in slow motion so that everybody's just moving step by step, but
Oh, yeah.
I think Grandpa's umping,
Yeah.
and it's just sort of, what's that called, rotating
Scrub.
scrub, yeah,
Yeah.
the scrub. And but we had, and everybody's there, and we're
Yeah.
all about, I'd say, between 10 and 16. Huge number.
When I was a kid here, there were either 2 or 3 kids in the village. That was all there
Is that
was.
right?
It was Gray Miriam in the store, and sometimes it was Elwood Kentner.
Yeah.
And that was
See, we
the
had
child population
We
of
had
the
so
village
many
then.
kids. We had so many kids that Ellen Jameson was the superintendent of Sunday school, and I was his helper. And we had a record 120 one Sunday, kids at Sunday
Really?
school. And it was separate from church. It wasn't done as part of church. It was done
Yeah,
before
they had-
church.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Church was
Well, I think
there.
the church made a lot of contribution here to social life for young people
Mhm.
and to leadership skills. You speak
Yeah.
about being put into leadership in this group
Mhm.
or that group. That was an important thing that people learned in this community. Was
We
Possibly.
Jamesons,
yeah.
the Jamesons were good,
Mhm.
and Snows.
yeah.
There was a lot of young people.
Actually, my first Sunday school teacher was Beatrice Hiltz,
Oh yes.
and she was very elderly then,
Yeah.
because I would have been 14 when we moved out here, so I didn't go to Sunday school here till then. And we were the senior class, and we met in the back pew of the church, because there were about 5 classes upstairs, and everywhere downstairs had classes. And there were probably 10 in our group, and we all did our confirmation classes together at that time too.
So what was happening there between the 30s and 40s when it was such a low population, and the 60s and 70s that you're speaking about, when there were children all over the place? Was it just was it new families moving in, or was it people having more children because times were better, or?
Well, we moved 5 in ourselves.
Yeah.
So
That
But
helped.
that wasn't till 60s. see.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
What
I'm not sure.
what's now there are a lot more new people. What's happening in this community today?
Well, there are young families coming to church,
Mm-hmm.
but they're so busy with hockey and baseball, and their kids are in this and in that, and so there's lots of times there on the Sunday
A lot of tournaments and things on weekends.
and then of course with our church service being at 9:30, it's hard for me even
Yeah,
to get up,
it's quite early.
early on Sunday morning and get down here.
I guess they're saying there's more options today for other things to do. In
Well,
those
that's
days,
right,
people
see.
looked to the
Mhm.
church to supply most of the
Hmm.
community activities. And
We had a minister who he decried the fact that churches had become almost like social clubs.
oh,
And he actually in his sermon spoke about this one Sunday, and he spoke about equating once in a while churchgoers to hobby farmers. And of course most people in the church were hobby farmers.
whoa,
And he
Oh,
just
it hit me,
in what
so
like
I was-
1 or 2 sentences he actually put down almost every single person. And he's just a young guy, and we liked him. And oh my gosh, like Mert Allison was in the church, and Mert knew how much it would hurt Mom and me for sure. But because we got there when we could, like we were coming from quite a distance, and we got there when we could. And of course his point was that he wasn't targeting, but sometimes when you spray your target too wide, you hit too many people. And it wasn't just us, it was everybody. Well, I had about 6 phone calls. Mom had about 10. Because people knew that we were quite upset with this. And he called and he tried to
Smooth it
over, yes. But it was, you know, it was just one of those things where you got to be so careful because Mom says she comes for fellowship. Like she comes to feel good. She wants to see people and feel good.
The ladies that come and help us at Fallbrook Park the other night, they come and did all the kitchen stuff and just were wonderful.
They would do anything.
I just love them all. They're just, yeah.
Well, even though the church seems to be not so prosperous, I notice when the Ballinafad newsletter comes out, it's not coming out these days, but when it came out, most of the news in Ballinafad was written by the United Church. It seemed that most, whatever was happening, or else it was a Euchre party, which was fine, and so on, but it has always made a contribution, and it's always created a lot of leadership like ourselves